Finding out a lot about you, Harvey. You'll not be able to feed your family as long as his arm's still injured. He's blaming himself for the injury. So people are in little social circles. There's a dynamic between the characters. I imagine that when they talk about the consequence for killing someone, that the consequence is one consequence is that this health status could change, potentially. And the other one is probably whoever they're in a social circle with, it might affect them. Maybe it decreases their blood quality because of the outcome of what happens. Like maybe you should go after the high blood quality person in the group first or something. And then these guys seem to be isolated. Clay and Rakesh. There seems to be a similar situation each time. And I would guess that people that are in conflict, like how this guy needs to feed his family, and he's under medical treatment between these two doctors. If you kill one of the doctors, I bet the other one just gets to do whatever they want at that point, and you find the consequence of that. Although you might be able to talk them through having whatever outcome happen too. Just a lot going on here.
How long must I wait, damn it?
Blaming me will not further your agenda, sir.
How long's it going to take to fix me properly? A month? A year?
You have the right to disapprove of our methods, and you will kindly apologize when you're feeling better.
Almost made it. That was a weird sight.
You all...
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reid. Any news about my operation?
You seem worried about the safety of your family, and it's obviously the reason why your wound troubles you so much.
I cannot give up on my children now. They both need me living.
What about their mother, if I may ask?
She died in 1915 during one of the first Zeppelin raids. We never found her body.
Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick, unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself, but I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army, building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl.
Might see him a little bit more than he hopes. I gotta make up my mind about this. About how I'm gonna treat some of these characters. Because I'm actually reaching the point where some of these characters are actually maxed out. What was that? Don't know that person yet. Didn't I get a clue about you?
I'm quite busy right now, Dr. Reid.
I think you're always gonna say that, aren't you? From here on out.
Tell me, Waverly, what do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
If you are going to lead this surgery, I'm trusting you to assume the consequences of your actions, whatever the result.
I'm not the kind of man who runs away from his responsibilities, Dr. Reid. There is no need for you to be looking over my shoulder.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
I'm pretty sure we're making a difference.
Thought somebody was over here. Oh yeah, a couple of people. I don't know either of you. You're probably from a different community.
Doctor.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reid. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reid? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Doctor.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived, but we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reid. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
There's multiple angles that are all going to point you towards... Oh, what's she doing? What you doing, Goswin? Alright. There's multiple avenues for finding out about the fact that they're charging for beds. What's that? There's a letter there.
Good evening, sir.
Prescription, maybe?
Doctor.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reid. Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here, then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'm sure you realize a doctor and his patient have to communicate, sir. Would it help if I gave you some paper and a pen?
Not really.
I see. Then maybe it's not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reid. It's my mother.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
I don't want to talk. Please don't make me talk. Time to keep talking.
As for me, what a blundering idiot.
I think that's everyone in this area. This one area, this one particular... Wait, is he here too? Oh, he's outside the wall. Next, probably investigate who that screaming's coming from. Unknown. Who are you?
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reid, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reid, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of pustulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover to hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me, for I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal, but do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Ooh. Wrong target. New investigation. A new citizen investigation is available. Press the options button to open the local investigations menu. Citizen investigations. Citizen investigations are displayed here, categorized by districts. You can start a new citizen quest by tracking it with X, then accessing your map to locate the area to explore. So that's the finding that guy's wallet. We took care of that. Reach the pharmacy. There's the conflict between the two. I'm supposed to get... Right, because they wanted ingredients that they weren't getting, right? Find out who's spying on Thelma. Nothing back there. Okay. She's healthy. And we have one of her things. Somebody in a social circle we don't know. Maybe the person that's spying on her. Oh, the irony of being a vampire who encounters a mental patient who thinks they're a vampire. Also, I looked into this because I was curious how it works. The mesmerization level is something that you level up automatically as you proceed through the main story. So, surprisingly, you actually might miss out on less than expected by consuming characters, because the mesmerization level is based on story gating. So if you have been keeping up with stuff, you might not miss out on that much if you kill them when you're able to, because the story determines when you can and can't kill them. As you proceed through the story, they become available, so that might be the game's own safeguard against being locked out of content. I don't know. This whole meter over here is certainly more worrying. Like, part of me is like, ooh, this guy's available, but at the same time I'm like, ooh, that's not a lot of experience compared to some of the other characters, and maybe I should wait for them instead, since they're worth more. But they also come up later in the game when maybe, for all I know, that number might be less by then. Oh, Mortimer has fatigue. He needs to be treated.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
It was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
So who's messing with her? Probably just need to poke around and keep finding new people, right? These are mostly familiars. You can actually just home in on weird, strange people you haven't met yet and then go track them down in the building. It's actually really useful. There's Sean.
It's here again.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reid. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. Told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after your case?
Nobody since the old and tired doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
How close are you to Miss Hawcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless. I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. Her arm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me.
So do you let her bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
And why not? She's only supping a few drops of my blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
Then it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotar syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Damn! The pain. It's here again.
They're going the full spectrum, aren't they? You got the person who's mentally ill and might be dangerous to people. You have the person who's constantly in pain at all times. You have the person who is just trying to heal up quickly to get back to their family. They got like the full spectrum of people you might choose between if you're trying to rationalize to only hunt some people and not others. All depends on how you play.
Good evening, Mr. Hampton. How do you feel?
Dr. Reid, is it? Oh, sir, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief. Now all I need to do is rest and return to my flock.
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here. This Miss Hawcroft.
You dared to enter this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reid. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
Do you know Tom Watts, the bartender from the Turtle? I met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Tom? Yes, of course. Always the helping hand, good old Tom. Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
Who should I avoid in this part of town, then? Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the dockers' trade union. The wet boot boys are very nervous since they lost their leader.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End. No one dares to bug a saint, not even criminals.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks, and I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest. And then I can go back to the people who need me.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really, but I recognize Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke? Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later.
News travels fast. That guy's little skirmish just happened like minutes ago, and there's already talking about like the change of leadership since he's disappeared and stuff like that. There's someone unknown in here, but I can't get in that room, as far as I can tell. So we won't be meeting them yet. That's Pippa. That is a real name. What is that? In the name of mercy, they depend on you. Nurses are needed now. Inquire at the nearest appointment office, blah, 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 blah. Influenza epidemic. As reported from London in 1918. Is that how much... Is that how infected each zone is or something? I don't know I'm not sure what the grid means. Lack of detail. We're just stocking up. I take it we have infinite inventory. Oh, that's one of the doors that would only open from one side, right? I've been here before.
It's locked.
Curious about you. That might be all we get for now. It's probably time to go back upstairs. Or go upstairs for the first time and check out our office. We've met a significant number of people. Upstairs seems way less crowded.
Not now.
Swansea is not ready to talk, evidently. Not going in there. Don't mind me just sprinting down hallways like a lunatic. This door doesn't even exist as far as I'm concerned as a player. A used hacksaw. T. Elwood's medical file. Thomas Elwood, male, age 28, followed by Dr. Tippett's. Status: convalescence. Date of admission September 16th, date of release to be determined. Notes: the patient's face has been heavily burnt and disfigured by a bomb during the war. Even with use of the strongest sedatives, he affirms to regularly endure severe pain from the wounds, as if the flames are still burning under the skin, he says. Examinations of the cicatrized, I don't know the word, tissues shows no trace of inflammation, infection, or swelling. Scars are clean. Could it be a case of persisting nerve damage? The patient never ceases to blame himself for his disfiguration. Could it be a case of guilt of the survivor? Phantom pain manifesting as a punishment for not dying with his comrades. Could be. Maybe he wants to die. Maybe I should ask him. Maybe he'll be the first victim voluntarily. Cheap gin. Don't sell yourself short, gin. Dr. Reid, there's my room. Let's avoid that as long as possible. There's Jackal in here. Alright, what about upstairs? Let's get familiar with this place. I think it's our HQ, at least for now. That's just straight up not a real door, huh? When I say not a real door, I just mean like it's something I can't interact with as a character, so it's like might as well be a wall texture. They don't even bother to lock these doors, they're just not real. Alright. That further emphasizes the idea that if I ever find something that's locked, I probably can open it at some point, because otherwise there's all these doors that just aren't here at all. Non-interactive.
This must be the place. It's definitely away from prying eyes. Relegated to the shadows. A kingdom of my own. At least I won't be sleeping in a coffin.
It's my new HQ. Dragonbane? Excuse me? Just a sword. This ancient sword with a Latin phrase engraved in the blade. It has been forged in Wales during the 6th century and belonged to Paulus Aurelianus, founder of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole. Legend says he had this blade forged before he chose the path of exile and left England with his people. Dragonbane has been passed to each new primate of the Brotherhood, and may have been used in secret ceremonies. When a primate was sent on a path of war to defeat the hostile creature, the sacred sword was supposedly lost during the schism between the Brotherhood of the Guard of Prewin and the middle of the 19th century. It seems a few copies have been made, but this is the true and original Dragonbane. What the fuck? Why? Why do I have that? Why? That just sounds absurd. Absorb blood points with weapon hits? Yes. Just all of your normal attacks give you blood? That sounds like great news. I definitely would like that. But I need one more common handle part before I can upgrade it to have 90 damage, and then also get those next. It's already higher damage than my machete. That's 15, 15, 10, 20. So both of its other characteristics are listed as being negative by comparison, but it does do more damage. Hacksaw, same attack speed, but worse stamina. Like that thing upgraded is almost as strong as my scythe, and my scythe is a big, slow, two-handed weapon. Can I swing it? No. What's happening? Wait. Wait, why are we having a loading screen? I just picked out a... Was that sword really important? What? We just like jumped forward in time or something?